Well, hello, welcome or welcome back. So, something that kind of occurred to me that I've seen a reoccurring pattern with a lot of people who have gone through their spiritual awakening, don't feel motivated. They just are almost in a bit of a depressed state afterwards. And I kind of made the correlation between a spiritual awakening and soul loss. Stick around. I will get to some of the tips and things that I have personally done and that I have helped others do when they have experienced soul loss. And we'll get into what soul loss is if you're not familiar with that. If we examine what usually the catalyst is for a spiritual awakening, it's generally induced through trauma, whether it be the loss of a job, a relationship, a belief system, your faith, a traumatic event, an accident, the list goes on. But so trauma is very subjective as well. Each person experiences and processes trauma very differently. So one can't really compare trauma at all. But that generally is the catalyst for an awakening to happen, a shifting of perspective. And then that puts us into the darkness of the soul, and then that leads us down a path of inner work and shadow work and searching and doing a lot of inner reflecting and self-actualization after that point. So we are acknowledging the unhealed or the shadowier sides of our nature, our more reactive nature, the parts of ourselves that we're just working purely from our subconscious and we're not working from a fully conscious and aware state. So going through the self-actualization period of an awakening is kind of part of it, right? So we start to become more self-aware. And in that self-awareness, suddenly our idea of who we are as a person, our world, our spiritual belief systems, everything that we thought we knew is shattered. And in that shattering is when we kind of crumble in a way. So there's the shock side of it, when all of a sudden we become very aware that, oh my gosh, we take off the rose-colored glasses, whether it be the fact that we woke up to a lot of the manipulations and things that are going on in our world, everything from, government conspiracies to our own personal relationships. So by waking up to maybe realizing like, holy, maybe these relationships, maybe these situations, maybe my behaviors, maybe all of this stuff is unhealthy, it's not working, it's toxic, it's not correct. So now your whole illusion of what you thought your world to be has now shattered. So in that moment, we are now going to go through a grieving stage. We are going to start to grieve our old life and our old way of being and our old world. Our world as we once knew it. And even our belief systems, like when our fundamental belief systems become disrupted, it creates soul shock in a lot of ways. No different than if you were in a sudden accident, right? If you were just tootling along on your day and next thing you know, bam, you got hit by a truck, right? Your soul goes into shock, and in that place, parts of yourself actually retreat and they move to a safe place. These safe places from a spiritual perspective, if we look back throughout history, there have been medicine people that would help others that have gone through trauma to locate pieces of their soul, pieces of their essence, and call those pieces back. So there is rituals, and there are ancient ritual rites around soul retrieval and soul loss. And this is something that I feel like a lot of us, we may go through the mental healing, we may, try and understand the logic, the reason, identifying our emotions, but we always have to view things from the mind, body, and spirit connection, our spiritual connection as well, in order for it to be a holistic approach to whole healing from the inside out as well. So I feel the soul shock is what happens, and then that leaves us in a space, in a place of feeling fragmented, of not feeling whole. And when we start using words like, I don't feel complete, I feel like something is missing, and we just feel like something's missing. And so we're in this almost limbo state. And in my years of doing this and viewing it from the spiritual perspective, I have actually worked with people and myself and have literally seen parts of people's souls, aspects, like almost like little holographic imprints of who they are, sitting in those liminal spaces. Now, anybody who has the natural gift of sight can see these liminal spaces. Other people access these liminal spaces by psychedelics. I prefer to do it naturally. So, a few symptoms of soul loss. I'm just going to read off a couple that I have, just about 11 right here that I have. Fatigue, depression, anxiety, memory lapses, feeling incomplete, an emotional numbness, a lack of enthusiasm. That's where the apathy comes in. And then addictive behaviors can happen, struggles with relationships because you have a hard time connecting with yourself emotionally and spiritually. So therefore you're going to have a harder time connecting with anyone else as well. A chronic illness, and susceptible to mishaps, accidents, feeling ungrounded, random events of chaos that are just constantly happening around you because you're not fully present and you're not fully grounded within yourself, and all these little pieces of you are missing at that point. So you can do little things for yourself. I have found having certain routines that I would stick to. So, which was what led me to create my sort of sacred spaces. Some people might call them altars, some people call them shrines, some people call them sacred spaces. Call it what you want. It is a specific spot that you create for yourself that is created with an intention. An intention is everything. So, by the act of creating a sacred space and a sacred ritual, you're able to also reprogram your mind and put your intentions and focus into what it is that you want to create or what it is that you want to manifest as well. And by putting those intentions in there through the act of affirmation and through the act of intention and through the act of conscious ceremony. Those are the three main keys to helping yourself work through soul loss and to helping yourself stay grounded and stay present. And it acts as a reminder. The reason why we do rituals, they're a reminder to our subconscious mind from our conscious mind. It's sort of like a little PS note to your subconscious, right? This is what we want to do. This is what we want to focus on. So we're retraining our own mind as well. When people look at, say, setting up altars or setting up sacred spaces, putting out your affirmations and lighting your candles and creating that routine, I feel like that there's a bit of a stigma around it where some people think, oh, that's just, that's witchcraft. No, that's not. This has been around for a long time. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. Literally nothing. Every religion, every culture around the world all has the act of ceremony and the sacred ceremony. The sacred ceremonial act is very important. So because we understood, our ancestors understood, and we understood that the physical actions of what we're doing sets an intentional purpose in our mind, and then that is how we create it into our reality as well. So, intentional manifestations through sacred ritual and sacred ceremony. What does that look like? For myself, I just incorporate it into my daily life. It's my routine. At the end of every day, I have my little sacred space that I light my candles, I light my sage or my incense, or I kind of lay everything out. And at that point, I will take moments to reflect on, what am I grateful for? And so therefore I'm turning the energy inwards and I'm grounding myself in gratitude. So I'm grounding myself in my heart space at that moment. And from there, sometimes I may offer, thoughts or prayers or affirmations or whatever you want to call it, towards others that I may feel that may need a little energetic boost. So not only am I filling my own emotional well up, I'm reprogramming my mind, and I am also extending that energy outwards. So to me, it feels like it is an absolute win-win-win all the way around. So the power of intention and the power of words. By speaking the words out loud, we can speak things into existence. So if I know I'm experiencing soul loss, I will speak certain affirmations such as, I call my energy and I call my power. I call it back to me, cleansed, healed, and whole in every time, every space and dimension. And then I feel myself gathering all those little bits of me that might be fragmented, that might be off, lost in who knows where, liminal space. And I call it all back to me. And then I go, I release all energies that do not serve my highest and greatest good. And I release it and I send it fully and completely back with love. And I create this separation of my energy versus others' energies as well. Because also as sensitives, and we are all sensitive, whether we have different levels of understanding of what that is and everybody experiences it differently, but we all have the ability to feel each other. So that also helps us release any psychic drains that are draining, or entities that are draining our energies at that moment. We're now creating a separation from that, and we're calling ourselves back in. And I found that I pretty much have to practice this almost daily. And I find when I do forget, I definitely feel it in my energetic levels. They really start to drop and I become a lot more ungrounded. I found that to be incredibly quick, easy, and helpful. And it's another way of, to me, it's a beautiful way of ending a day. Right? And you set the tone that, okay, this day is done. Thank you for this day. And tomorrow is going to be a fresh start. It's a new day as well. So a few little things like that, and perspective as well. Everything is about perspective. So if we look at everything as a learning opportunity rather than an obstacle, that also shifts us into a different mindset as well. We become more of an alchemist. Now that puts us in the driver's seat rather than the passenger seat of life as well. So I heard a saying that has really stuck with me that I would use as my mantra when I was struggling at times, that this is not happening to me, this is happening for me. And that was a powerful statement to hold on to as well. So by changing our thought patterns, seeing things a little bit differently from a different perspective, shifting our thoughts, shifting the way that we see things and our little behavioral patterns, we can slowly start to sort of build ourselves up spiritually as well. And we become stronger in spirit, mind, body, and soul. You'll start to feel whole again. You'll start to find the joy and the passion, and you will start to feel that fire start to build back up inside you again. This is what lifts us out of the fog, right? But there is a time and a place. Sometimes we're meant to be in that place, and sometimes that is where the greatest potential for new beginnings happens, is within that darkness as well. If we look at how when we plant a seed, we plant a seed in the soil. We plant a seed in the darkness, and it is in that darkness that new life forms as well. So it's not about bad or good. It's about potential and what the potential of it can be, and how, as the alchemist of your own life, how can you take that and make it this? So when you hear that saying, the only way out is through, or it's through the darkness that we find the light, I know there's been a few people that when I have said that, they kind of are like what the hell? Why do we have to have the darkness anyways? Why the suffering? Why all of that anyways? Well, because I think that is where our soul development comes into play. I think that's where we really have an opportunity to strengthen ourselves. That is what builds the character. That is what builds the soul. That's what strengthens our spirit, if we choose to see it that way and if we choose to alchemize it that way. Also, keeping up with our spiritual hygiene is incredibly important as well. We sometimes neglect that because we don't think about ourselves necessarily always holistically. We think about our physical health, we think about maybe our mental health, but we also have to take into consideration our spiritual health. So whatever that means to you, for myself, I like to use my sage. I like to use smudging practices. I like to do spiritual baths. I like to have certain routines that in that respect. So find what uplifts your soul and what uplifts your spirit. That is also taking care of your spiritual health, which is super, super important. So self-care practices are spiritual practices in a way. So taking those moments where you have those little indulgences, that you are worthy enough and you are good enough and you do deserve to treat yourself. Of course, there's obviously balance within that, but I think you understand what I mean. It's the little things that add up. So if we are experiencing a place of soul loss, then we can rebuild that, and we can rebuild that quite easily and even faster than we might realize. But it does require us putting the work in. It does require us having boundaries with ourselves, and also boundaries with our physical world, as well as boundaries with our spiritual world. So everything is just about balance. So I hope this helped. And if you would like to hear a little bit more about soul loss or more techniques and stuff like that, please let me know. If you're interested, I would love to share some more, and I'd love to hear your stories too. All right, take care of yourself, and until next time, bye.